building your brand, especially in different places, different spaces, using different techniques. And today we have a very, very special guest, and that is Audrey. Audrey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for having me, for one thing. Let me just throw that out there. I'm super excited to be on this entire program, Goldie Chan. You are amazing. My name's Audrey Boyle. I am a college professor. I've been in the game, I want to say, the education game for about 7 years. I really developed and I taught the college class personal branding. And through that and teaching the college class social media, I was able to look at it from an academic focus and really dive in. So what that means is I like to be funny in the classroom. I'm an edutainer. I'm the dreaded edutainment. And so really what I've done is I've really procured that in all my classes. And my tagline is amplifying learning with laughter. So my social media following, I run around, I do a lot of comedy, and I'm developing TV shows and radio shows and all of the things. But really what it is helping people. I love making people laugh, and I love helping and educating people. And so I'm excited to talk about branding and education. Those two things are like my everything. So let's do this.
Let's do this. So first of all, hi to some of our folks tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. It's pretty neat to see we have folks from all over the world. We have Sweden, hi. We have Melbourne, we have Dallas, Texas. Thank you so much. We are so excited to be doing this show on education. I don't think I've actually ever done a LinkedIn Live or a live stream on education in the educational space before. So you will have to educate me on this. Ha ha ha. Bad dad joke. So let's get started. Let's think about brands and education in general. As an educator, how are you building your personal brand, which once again is a very, very unique brand?
Authenticity. I always come back to, like, first question is, why are you doing this? Like, what's the purpose? Like, most people think like, oh, I want to start an Instagram. Oh, I want to get on LinkedIn. I should start posting. But then it becomes super exhausting. Like, oh God, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And it's because you didn't really start from the base level of like, why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. So first ask yourself why, like try to figure that out. Like, what's the legacy? What's the ultimate goal in the end? And then you have a good place to start.
Yes. So I think that's such a great way to think about it, which is, what is it that you want to share with the world first? Mm-hmm. And what is your general brand? What is it, and who is the audience that you're speaking to? Now, of course, as an educator, it's a little bit different than people who are building their brand around, say, their career marketing, right? Because you are literally creating a career around educating and teaching others. So how is it a little bit different than building brands in other arenas?
It is different. It's very different because when you're in the classroom, you are in charge. You are there, and it's not necessarily, you're not usually vulnerable. So you're not usually saying, hey, this is me. I'm going to put myself out there. That's not normally the case. But in today's education, that is absolutely the case, because today's student will go and check you out. They'll make sure you know what you're talking about, especially when it comes to college students. And I found that what's so different about it is, like, first the why, what are your values, what's the ultimate goal? And then, okay, you don't have to know all the things to do all the things. So looking at it from a different perspective when it comes to education, because if somebody is going to say, here's your brand, and that's one thing that I deal with when it comes to educators, you have to figure out your brand for yourself. Mm-hmm. Nobody can say, this is what you need to do, and I'm going to give you a booklet, and here's a handbook on your life. You know, it doesn't work like I kind of wish it kind of did, but you have to figure it out for yourself. And so, and if somebody does do that for you and they say, this is all the steps you need to know, then you just know you're not changing your behavior. So what will happen is that you'll self-sabotage your way out of all of it. So I always tell educators, like, first, your why. First, figure out your values, why you're doing this, and then really try to piggyback on, like, what's your perspective? What do you want to get out to the world? and what do you want to change? Like if you're in front of the classroom, how do you have that same demeanor in front of the classroom when you're out of the classroom? Like you want to carry it on. And it's really important to get a hold of your brand because, you know, we've all been branded somehow or other. You know, people know you for something or other. You just don't know it, maybe. And so it's really important to maybe survey people that you know, survey students. So it's kind of like, oh, teacher surveys are kind of rough. But look at people that you work with, people you have worked with, friends, family, and ask them questions so that you can get a hold of your brand and then move from there. So being vulnerable is really difficult when it comes to educators because we're so used to just being in front of the classroom and where what we say goes, and that's the way it goes all day long. So
yeah, and I think that there is so much that you can do with an educator's brand because you are probably teaching a subject, right, or multiple subjects, but they probably all live in one universe. So sharing that subject level expertise that you share with your students every day or every week, however frequent that is, and then sharing that across your socials and across your personal brand probably is also very helpful.
I tell educators too, like if you're a teacher, look at it like a guided discussion. So you throw out a subject and then you're not just talking about it and they're just looking at you or they're looking at their phone or whatever, you know, like you want them to ask questions, you want them to engage with you and look at that like that's the comments. So, and then you would comment from there. So it's really a post is a guided discussion and you want to lead the conversation, where you don't just say, hey, I know all the things and I'm just going to teach you and you're going to take notes.
Yes. And I think that's so good that you are treating it like a guided discussion, just like when we are all in the classroom and our teachers treat it like a guided discussion. So we make sure that there is a rhyme and a reason for building a brand in general. Now, of course, I want to hear more about some of the work you do outside of just this tiny little bubble of building your personal brand. I know you also work with educational brands sometimes, right? And you also work on your own projects. So I'd love to hear a little bit about both.
So I look at my comedy as educational comedy or suspenseful comedy. You don't know necessarily what's going to happen. And in the end of the day, you hopefully learn something from the fact that you're entertained. So that is my approach when it comes to everything. So my social media following, I was the mom comedian. So, you know, running around with the memes and all the different things. That's how I kind of built my following. And just really being curious. So I'm a really curious person. And so my following, when it grew, it's like at 100,000 followers or something like that on Facebook. It's like when it grew, that's really what it was I just wanted to make people laugh. And I looked at it like that. So I have, I do a lot of sketch comedy. I have a radio show. I'm writing a book right now. And I have an educational company called Hallpass Education, which we are all about amplifying learning and really changing the behavior, you know, like connecting the dots between what you learn in academia and what it takes to function in today's environment.
So what does the company do?
We have programs. So we have a transition program, we have a college readiness boot camp, and then we also have a gap year program.
Oh, cool. So a lot of things.
A lot of things going on. It's really the idea that people are in transition, especially right now. We're all in transition. And there's a lot of things that are missing from traditional education. So I look at it like education really is like stew, you know, and we think of it like it's a mixture, like it's blended soup, but it's really not. So the meat could be knowing, or the meat could be, you know, financial stress or something along those lines. And we need to factor all of that in when it comes to changing our behavior. So unlearning, we have to go through a process of unlearning in order to learn.
Gosh, I always think about the subject of what we have to unlearn in order to move forward, whether that's a bad way, I guess, of even presenting yourself, especially as you're progressing down your educational career, especially if you are then out of your educational career and looking for your first job or second job or 50th job, hopefully not. But I think we are definitely, I think unlearn is such a good good term to think about?
So what do you need to unlearn? So it's the thought of like, why do doctors smoke? They know better. I mean, obviously they went to a lot of school. They know that it's not good for you, but it may be something that helped them. What they had limited success when they smoked before a test or something like that. So it's all about boiling down what is all of that stuff, figuring out what it is and changing your approach to that. Not necessarily saying like, I'm going to teach you everything and then you're going to then go on and change your behavior and stop smoking or stop doing whatever you really want to do or become Lady Gaga or whatever. So it's kind of like this whole progression of like looking at it like non-judgmental. This is my approach. This is what I've done in the past, and that's not necessarily suiting me. So I need to change my behavior and understand why I'm doing it in order to learn to be different.
So number one, the why, and then number two, change that behavior. So that way you can grow. You can grow and you can build your brand, but also become, honestly, a better person, which is also helpful for having a strong personal brand. So we have a question in from James. I'm going to put it up on screen. It's a little bit bulky, so I will read it out loud. How do you find the time in the day to generate content for your personal brand without it being your full-time responsibility? Do you spend a week, a month pre-scheduling posts, or truly create content on the fly whenever you get a second? So I will let the lovely Audrey respond to this first, and then I will also give a response, but you first.
I've had various points where I created on the fly, like literally whatever I created, whatever I had going on, that was what I posted. And then I've had moments where I pre-planned what I was going to do. And I think that the key is consistency, whether you do, you're on the fly or you're scheduling it out. Just being really consistent makes you creative in nature. So then you go, oh yeah, I should do this, I should do that, because you're really consistent and you don't have that pressure. I look at creating content like it's cumulative, like it builds over, this is my educational term, it builds over time, right? It builds over time. So look at it like that. And so you want to build that over time. But really, I don't stop in the middle of my day and then say, okay, I'm going to create content. I want it to be a naturally part of my day. So there's the authenticity. That's the why, that coming back to why are you doing this? So if I'm doing something, I'm teaching a class and I have a thought and I find it interesting, why don't I go ahead and post it online and just go from there? If you're taking a class or you're at work or you notice something, whatever you're naturally curious about, post about that. Think about what your pillars are and go from there. So
Absolutely.
I don't just have to stop and then make content. That is exhausting. That is just exhausting.
Well, I think we probably both know people who are constant content creators, as in every moment of their life, they are making content. They are, and it's so funny because I'm literally going to take a screen cap of this guy's right now as I'm talking, just to have a screen cap. I had to say that as I was doing the screen cap. But I think doing constant content, there's a way to do consistent content. That's better than constant content. And that's also how I think about the way I create content too. So I would say in 2018, I was creating almost 100% of my content on the fly. So that's at least one video a day, multiple posts, and I was just doing it all in the moment. Everything really, I wanted it to be so fresh. And now that my brand has matured a little bit, and I think myself as a content creator, I have matured a little bit. Now it's a little bit different. So now when I create content, I do some of it completely on the fly because, as Audrey said, there's just some moments that feel really real, and it's really nice to make that content then and there. But you also should be planning out content so you don't kill yourself. For 2 years, I did an edited video every single day. And the majority, 98% of those videos were not pre-planned or pre-edited. I literally shot and edited them the same day. And that is not a fun lifestyle. I'll just throw that out there. So, oh my gosh, it's so much easier to pre-plan, I would say at least 50% of your content and then have 50% or less be really fresh. Now, if you are doing daily content and it's fresh every single day, bless, that's amazing, great for you. I personally already did that, and I'm donezo with that in my life.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I did that not for 2 years, but I did it for 90 days, and it was exhausting. So kudos
Okay,
to
we
you.
have another question here from Reginald. What do you suggest as a golden number of posts per day? I manage 12 clients' social media accounts. Wow. And I want to find out from you what would be a good number to post daily or weekly. Audrey, this one's yours.
Okay. Well, it depends on the platform, and it depends on where they are in their brand cycle. So if you're as advanced as Goldie is, you don't necessarily need to post every day when it comes to Instagram. Like it's just kind of be mindful of being consistent with whatever you're doing. So if it's once a month, I usually look at like, okay, plan on once a month. And then if you can do once a month, you have 12 posts. Okay, once a week. Okay, maybe once a day, and work backwards from there, and not necessarily like I have to put all these posts into this 1 month and then that's it. So just kind of work backwards from what you can actually achieve. LinkedIn, I mean, I think you could go, it's varying. There's lots of varying stories when it comes to posting on LinkedIn. And Goldie, you could probably actually speak to this a little bit more than I can. But I would say you could do once a week or you could do once a day. It's just kind of barometer of posting and your following. And then Instagram, you could do once a day or you could do once a week. It's just really everybody's all over the place when it comes to what they're able to do. But I guess really just to answer what I would say, your question is look at what the following is, what the brand, how solid the brand is, and think about the posts more than the frequency of posts. Mm-hmm. So you want to make really awesome posts because you want it to cut through the chatter because there's a lot of distractions right now.
Absolutely. And I think I'm going to pull out one point that you said in particular, and that is being platform specific. So every platform is different from the number of times and the number of posts and kinds of posts you can create. If anyone on here has a LinkedIn learning account, feel free to watch my amazing, of course, course on building communities where I go through each platform. But really quickly, I will actually go through a couple of these platforms, thinking through how often we can post on them. So for a platform like Twitter, posting multiple times a day, absolutely okay. Yes. Why? Because most people post multiple times a day.
Yes.
Yes. And so thinking about a platform like LinkedIn, a lot of people post twice a week, I would say, or once a week. They're not posting 12 times a day. So posting 12 times a day on LinkedIn is going to look like a lot of noise in what Audrey accurately said was a sea of noise. So we don't want that at all. So really thinking about the platform itself and how frequently other people also post is going to be a really helpful way to determine the cadence and the frequency of your posts as well. And I love that I'm streaming on Twitch right now, which I find really hilarious. Obviously, for a platform like Twitch, people can literally stream once a day, but they're streaming for multiple hours a day. So once again, it really depends on the platform to think about the type of content, the length or type of content, and then also the number of posts per platform. So think more about the platform than maybe even your brand, but also, once again, what Audrey said, make it really good content. Instead of focusing on just getting out 200 very mediocre, terrible posts, get out 12 really, really good posts or really good videos, etc.
So, like, giving you some numbers, I'm going to give you, so a Twitter post is 7 minutes, maybe it lasts 7 minutes. Same with Instagram at the most, but LinkedIn an hour or maybe to 24 hours. So I would say don't judge yourself if you think like, oh, what is everyone going to think? Like, just get it out there. Just start posting. Just start getting your message out there, because honestly, there's so many posts going out right now. It's just important to be consistent.
Yes, I do like that you said that, because sometimes the hardest thing is to get started. And I know when we work with brands, right, when we are an agency and we have brand clients, or we're working in-house for a brand, sometimes it's hard to get them to just start posting on a platform, to start creating content and improve that content. But the sooner you get the content out there, the better.
Yes. 90% of, and when you take a flight, 90% of the fuel is just takeoff. So just take off.
And that is so, so true, that we just have to make sure that when we are thinking, especially about launching content on, say, a new platform. So say you've already dominated LinkedIn, you're doing amazing on LinkedIn, but now you're thinking about Twitter or Instagram or a different platform. Really just getting started is going to be the most helpful thing.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, when it comes from the education standpoint, or if you have multiple clients, like the person who asked that question, maybe think about the customer perspective. Like, who are you marketing to? So if I'm marketing to students, or if I'm marketing to other schools or other educators, like, who's my target audience? Where do they live? What platforms do they spend a majority of their time on? And focus on those platforms first. You don't have to be on all of them and just spread yourself thin. Really focus and go deep on the platform where your customer is.
So to drop a marketing term on everyone right now, really thinking about your target demographics and where they live. I literally just said exactly what I rephrased what Audrey said, which was very smart. Really thinking about who it is you're trying to speak to and where do they live? Do they live on LinkedIn? Do they live on Twitter? Do they live on Instagram? Do they live on TikTok? What platform is it that they really want to be on and they're active on? What's not helpful is if you try to build a presence on a platform where your audience just isn't, because you'll have to find also then a way to drag them. I like to use the word drag because you are dragging them onto a platform that they don't care to use.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
everyone, thank you so much for all these questions. We're just going to wrap it up really quickly with, I think, one more question, and that is, Audrey, what is your number one piece of personal branding advice for everyone out there?
That you have to determine your personal brand for yourself. So a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to be able to find it out for myself. I'm going to be able to throw money at it. I'm going to be able to pay someone to do it. Absolutely. I wouldn't recommend you doing it all yourself, but at the same time, you are going to have to sit down and pay attention to what your values are and where you want to go from there. And branding is not an option. So I think a lot of people may be still thinking like, it's okay. I don't necessarily need to brand myself. It's cool. Like, I don't have to worry about that. But it is not an option. And so if you want, the train is leaving the station. So if you're trying to catch up, like catch up and get on the train, because branding is how you can sell yourself when you are not around. When you're sleeping and people say like, oh, I made money while I was sleeping or taking a nap or doing something else. That's what branding is. And so my piece of advice is to just get started and figure it out for yourself.
Amazing. So obviously you just got the comment. This is very educative on your talk on educational personal brands. So I love that. Thank you to everybody for joining in on this chat. Audrey, where can everyone find you on the amazing internet?
Audrey Boyle. You can just Google my name. My handle is not Audrey Boyle. So
Of course it is. And I hope everyone does follow you, because you do have hilarious and fascinating content, and you are literally teaching this subject for a living. So everyone, I suggest you follow her here on LinkedIn or wherever you're watching, whatever platform you're catching this on. And I will catch you next time for more Build Your Brand. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.